just a matter of choice, isn't it? Risky compared to what? Okay, number 6 is, let's look at the most common way for most of you will be equity, using the equity in your home. Okay, who's used your equity in your home already to be an investor? Okay, most people, it's the most common way to do it. So let's give a quick example. Those who are not familiar with equities, people think they don't have any money. Let's say you have a house worth $300,000 and you owe $100,000 to the bank. So you've got a $100,000 mortgage. Then can you get a line of credit on this house, yes or no? Subject to your income, etc., up to generally 80%. So the banks will loan you 80%. Used to be 85, 90 before the non-conforming lenders disappeared. And so what's 80% of 300,000? 240. So they'll get you, increase your loan from 100,000 to 240. What's the difference between 100 and 240? $140,000. You would actually be able to draw out of that house and use it to invest. You could invest that into property, you can invest that in the share market, you can invest that on a holiday around the world. I wouldn't suggest that, but that's what many people have done. We suggest don't pull it out and spend it, pull it out only to invest it. Now some people say, yeah, but I've worked really hard for my house, I don't want to risk it. Okay, some people thought that, and let's think about that. 10 years ago, person A said, I don't want to risk borrowing against my house to invest. But person B goes, you know what? There's a risk to everything. I'm going to look at things and I'm going to decide to borrow against my house, but only put it into investments I'm comfortable with. i.e., and they pulled out, let's say they pulled out some money and bought 2 investment properties. Okay, 2 investment properties worth $300,000 each, say. So they put down a deposit, they borrowed 2 investment properties, $300,000 each, 10 years ago. That's $600,000 worth of properties. What's that now worth today, 10 years later? Let's say it's doubled. Now, they've been strategic, like some of our members, I know one of my staff members, she bought a property in Perth, I forget, she'll probably share with you later. I think for less than $1 million or $500-something thousand is worth $2 million, in a couple of years later. So in Perth, in some areas like that, where people made properties doubled and quadrupled in a short period of time. So, but let's say it's worth $1.2 million in 10 years' time. So they've generated $600,000 in equity, plus they've probably paid off some of the other equity, etc. now, and they also got rent coming in. So they've made probably $600,000, $800,000 by doing that in 10 years. Have they worked any harder in their job, yes or no? Do they look any more intelligent than person A that didn't do it? Look the same, doing the same job. Difference is, person A has probably been buying lotto tickets for the last 10 years. Is that true? Buying lotto tickets. One day I hope to be wealthy. Person B, same opportunity, but went out and bought 2 properties because they borrowed against their home 10 years ago. They're pretty much won lotto. Is that true? The equivalent of 1 lotto. The net asset gain they've got is pretty much like winning lotto. So while other people are dreaming about winning lotto by themselves, the average Australians have gone out and done something, have actually equivalent of winning lotto. And that has been so common by so many of our members over the years have gone out and done that. Who can relate to themselves have actually done that, or gone out and bought property and things like that. And now you're very grateful for that. Okay? You probably wish you had bought more. Is that true? So, making sense? Who's starting to get the idea that becoming wealthy, you don't necessarily have to be any more intelligent than other people. Actually, you could actually be dumber than other people, but just do something and you're going to get richer. Who's starting to get that idea? Okay? So, that's what's possible. Let's go back to, but Jamie, what if I don't have any equity? Tough. Okay? If you don't have any equity, that's what your parents are for. Okay? Parents' equity. Ring them up, start talking to them again. Okay? Be like, what do you want? Now, if you're a parent, don't necessarily let your children use your equity, but what would you rather? Your children come to you and say, look, I'm going to sacrifice getting a car. I don't want you to go guarantor to help me get a car. I've found an investment property. I've done my research. Can you check the research for me? This is what I want to do. I want to get my first property, but I need your help. To go guarantor or help me some equity as a deposit, etc. Would you consider that? Who as a parent would at least consider it? Okay? It doesn't mean you necessarily do it, etc. But what you're doing, you're expanding the wealth of the family instead of blowing it on cars and things like that. So parents' equity, if you negotiate that, is a possibility. Otherwise, maybe if you've got a good relationship with your grandparents, you never know. Okay. So number 8 is super. Your superannuation. I know those who are listening in from New Zealand, super's not such a big thing over there. It hasn't been compulsory like it has been in Australia. But in Australia, I think it's been a good thing, compulsory super. I've lobbied for many years for the government to make changes to super, to make it more tax effective, more encouraging for people to invest in it. And who's been happy with the government's choices over the last few years with improvements with super? Who thinks there's been an improvement? Not perfect yet, but certainly has been an improvement. So I think that's been good. And as a result of that, super can be a very effective investment. Now, we teach a lot of our members to use self-managed super funds. Who's got a self-managed super fund? Okay, a few people. Something to consider as an investor. You can use most of these strategies in your super fund and taking action with them. Salary sacrificing. I do a lot of that myself. In other words, I sacrifice some of my salary into super. Why? If I only have to pay, what tax rate do I pay on super? 15%, right? So if I'm paying, say, 30% through companies or 42% or whatever the tax rate is on personal income in a salary, then if I can get 15% tax on my super instead of 42%, what sort of return have I just made? What's the difference? Whatever that difference is, okay? 27%, correct? Is that a good return straight away? Now, if I'm managing my self-managed super fund and I'm investing that and getting decent returns as well on it, not just sitting there in someone else's managed fund, which you'd be pretty sad about right now because you're seeing it disappear, then you have more control over that, like where you could be protecting your positions and things like that. Okay? So the point is there is so much you can do. If people are educated, there is so much you can do. If we're not educated, then how much is it costing us not to know these things? I mean, you think in the last 10, 20 years, by not knowing this stuff, how much money has it cost you? If we added that all up in the room, a lot of you it probably cost most of you a couple of $100,000. Some of you $1 million. We're not taking action on some of this stuff 5, 10, 15 years ago. If we add it up in the room, we're talking millions of dollars lost. Why? Because we simply didn't have the education. We have the education and have the mindset that say, let's just get out there and make things happen. All of a sudden, what's possible? And that's where you see amazing success stories. There's people in this room that they sat in a seminar like this 5, 7, 8, 9 years ago, went out there and did it, and now sitting in a very good position. They're no smarter than anyone else. They just took action. Now, some people say, well, I wish that was me back then, but now it's like, it's too late. Is it really too late? Never too late. Actually, now, you've got a lot of great opportunities. You've got a great opportunity. For some of you, will never have the opportunity that's presenting in the share market right now, perhaps ever in your life again. Perhaps never in your life again. You never know. This is considered 1 in 100 years right now. So that's exciting. Will you take advantage of that, or will you just be part of history watching it and going, wow, look what I could have done? Okay, there'll be amazing success stories come out of what will happen next 2 or 3 years with the market. Okay, make sense? Here's what we're going to do. We are going to have a 5-minute, no, I'll give you 6 minutes. Feeling generous today. You're going to have a 6-minute break. During that 6-minute break, I want you to quickly think about which one of those 8 steps you're actually currently doing, and maybe put a question mark against the ones you're not. I don't care at what level of investing you're at, you'll be thinking, can I be actually speeding up what I'm doing by accessing more of this money? Okay, are you ready to learn some more? Who's learned something of value already? Okay, so let's get in now into Show Me the Money time. Let's look at some practical strategies. If you're a guest here and it's the first time you're seeing this, understand that you'll probably need to see this several times before it makes sense. Okay, so if you get a little bit confused, doesn't matter. On the other side of confusion is a breakthrough. And then when you see it, for me, I was a slow learner, so I needed to see things 5 or 6 times, and then I got, aha, now it makes sense, and then I took action. So it's a good idea to see this a few times, and at the end I'll tell you how you can learn this education in more detail, knowing that in 3 hours, as much as I'd love to teach you in 3 hours everything, it's not humanely impossible. And I'm a big believer in ongoing education for life, effectively. I continue to refine my skills and what I'm learning over time. And if you're going to be serious about mastering this, that's what you want to continue to do. It doesn't mean you can't implement stuff straight away, but you implement something and then continue to learn and then go to the next level, or implement another strategy and another strategy.